I used to believe in building things slowly, brick by brick. Love, trust, a future. That's how we started. Just the two of us in a cramped apartment with peeling paint and broken furniture, dreaming big. He had the vision, the charisma, the hunger to build something out of nothing. I had the faith, the patience, and a quiet fire of my own. He called me his anchor, said I kept him grounded. I'd stay up all night proofreading his pitch decks, rehearse with him before investor meetings, cook his meals, clean the apartment, and somehow still smile even when he came home too tired to say thank you. When he came to me and said he wanted to start his own company, I didn't hesitate. I dipped into my savings, money my father had left me before he passed, and gave it all to him. He never asked where it came from. He just took it, kissed my forehead, and said, "This is our future." For years, I stayed behind the curtain. When he got his first big client, I was the one who baked the celebration cake. When he was invited to speak at a tech conference, I helped write his speech. I wasn't looking for credit. I was proud. Proud of him, proud of us. But slowly, things began to change. He started dressing sharper, speaking faster, coming home later. I noticed his glances at his phone during dinner, the way his smile disappeared when I entered the room. He'd say things like, "You wouldn't understand, it's just business," or "I have to be around people who inspire me." One day, I brought lunch to his office, a simple gesture from the old days. That's when I met her, his assistant. She was young, vibrant, always laughing at his jokes. He introduced me as just my wife, barely making eye contact. I saw the way she looked at him, and worse, I saw the way he looked at her. Still, I said nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I tried harder. I cooked his favorite meals, left little notes in his briefcase, even tried to dress the way I saw her dressing. But then came the moment that shattered everything. It was a Tuesday, rainy. He came home late again, hair wet, jacket slung over one shoulder, like he didn't have a care in the world. I was sitting at the table, dinner cold. He didn't sit down, didn't look me in the eyes. He said, "I'm leaving you," like he was canceling a subscription. "It's just not working anymore." I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. "And before you make this emotional," he added, "just know that this company is my legacy. I built it. I bled for it. You'll get a fair settlement, but that's all. Don't make this harder than it has to be." I stared at him. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. So, that was it? After everything? I remember walking into the bathroom, locking the door, and sliding down to the cold tile floor. My chest hurt. My throat burned from holding in the scream. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, replaying every memory, every kiss, every lie. I wasn't just mourning a marriage. I was mourning the version of myself who believed she was loved, who believed loyalty meant something. And the worst part? He truly thought he'd won. He walked away with a new woman on his arm and his head held high, convinced that he was a self-made man. He had no idea what he had just awakened. The divorce proceedings were cold and efficient, just like him. He showed up in tailored suits, cracking jokes with his lawyer like he was negotiating a business merger instead of ending a marriage. He never looked at me. Not really. Not the way someone looks at the person they once promised forever to. I sat there in silence, listening as numbers were tossed around like poker chips, valuations, asset lists, company shares. He insisted the business was entirely his. She had no active role in the company, his lawyer said with a smirk, and he didn't correct him. But it wasn't until that final meeting, the last mediation session, that everything inside me truly broke. He leaned back in his chair, fingers laced behind his head, and said, "Let's be honest here. She didn't build this company. She was just there. Supporting, sure. But this?" He gestured with a smug grin. "This is all me. It's my legacy. She doesn't even understand how it works." Something snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. A stillness came over me like snow falling on a grave. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not a visionary, not a genius, just a boy playing dress-up in a man's world. Arrogant, blind, drunk on power he thought he earned alone. In that moment, the last ember of love I had for him died, and in its place, something else stirred. I didn't cry, I didn't speak, I just smiled, faintly. The kind of smile you give when a secret begins to bloom inside your chest. Because now I knew exactly what I needed to do. He had taken everything he thought mattered. Now I was going to show him what real power looked like. Let him bask in his triumph. Let him believe I was defeated. He had no idea. But soon he would. He thought I had moved on. He thought I was weak. Good. Let him. Because behind that silence, I was working. Every move calculated, every word measured, every breath controlled. The first thing I did was call my father's old lawyer, Daniel Tran, a man as discreet as he was brilliant. He'd handled all of my father's investments, and more importantly, he knew things. Quiet things, legal things, legacy things. We met in a small, private conference room downtown. I handed him the original investment contract my father had left among his belongings. It was old, yellowing, but the signature was unmistakable. My father had been the silent partner, the one who had put up the majority of the seed capital to start the company. And in return, he had negotiated 51% of the initial shares, voting shares. Over the years, the company had grown, taken on new investors, expanded its board, but no one ever questioned that buried clause in the founding agreement. No one ever looked. No one, except me. Daniel reviewed the documents for days, cross-referencing with stock records, partnership agreements, even the recent cap tables. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp when he finally looked up and said, "You control the legacy now. With a few strategic proxy transfers, you can secure majority voting rights. He won't see it coming." I nodded. My fingers didn't even tremble. The next weeks were a blur of secret meetings, legal authorizations, and meticulous preparation. I reached out to 2 minor board members, both of whom had grievances with my husband's ego and direction. I didn't offer revenge. I offered vision, a new kind of leadership, one they could trust. Quietly, they agreed. My lawyer arranged for all proxy rights to be executed discreetly. I attended board meetings as a mere observer, saying little but listening to everything, watching the smirks, the arrogance, the offhanded comments about how lucky I was to get out with a nice check. I nodded, smiled, but inside, every signature, every notarized page, every carefully prepared folder was a brick in the new empire I was about to reclaim. He thought I was gone. But I wasn't leaving. I was just getting into position. The shareholders' meeting was set in the company's top-floor boardroom, a room built to impress, with floor-to-ceiling glass, marble finishes, and a skyline view that screamed success. He sat at the head of the table like a king addressing his court, dressed in a bespoke navy suit, cufflinks glinting under the soft light, his arm casually draped over the back of his assistant's chair. She wore red, always red, like she needed to be seen. He laughed as he spoke, charming as ever. "We've had a phenomenal year. Expansion into Southeast Asia, acquisition of 2 competitors. The board has never looked stronger." He leaned forward, flashing his teeth. "And as your CEO, I can promise you that we're only just getting started." Polite applause filled the room. Then the door opened. The room fell silent as I stepped inside, flanked by Daniel Tran and 2 associates. I wore black, sleek, precise, powerful. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. Then amusement. "Oh," he said with a chuckle, "did someone invite my ex-wife for nostalgia's sake?" A few chuckles followed, nervous ones. Daniel placed a thick envelope on the table and slid it toward the board secretary. "This," he said clearly, "is an executed proxy transfer. Effective immediately, my client controls 70% of the voting shares of this company." The silence was instant. His smile froze. "I'm sorry, what the hell is this?" I stepped forward now, voice calm. "You always said the company was your legacy." I leaned in slightly. "But it never really belonged to you. Not from the start." He stood up, face flushed. "This is ridiculous. You can't just walk in here and—" Daniel interrupted. "It's all legal. Your father-in-law was the original silent partner, holding majority interest in the founding capital. That interest, upon his death, passed to his daughter." "You never—" his voice faltered. "You never even mentioned—" "Because I didn't need to," I replied, folding my hands. "Until now." His assistant looked around nervously, inching away from his side. "You lied," he hissed, stepping closer. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like how you manipulated our marriage? Or took credit for a company my father funded while you were still doodling logos in a notebook?" The room shifted. Board members leaned in, eyes narrowed. He tried to speak again, but the board secretary cleared her throat. "The paperwork is in order. As per the bylaws, a vote must be held to appoint a new CEO." I didn't look at him. I looked at the board. "Let's proceed." One by one, the hands rose. First, the 2 I'd spoken to privately, then another, and another. When the final vote passed, I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply walked to the head of the table and sat down in the chair he once called his throne. He stood frozen. "I suggest," I said calmly, "you gather your things. Security will escort you out. Your access will be revoked by noon." "You can't do this," he whispered. I met his gaze. "I already did." His assistant stood, unsure whether to follow him or stay. In the end, she chose to walk out first. He stared at me one last time. Betrayal, disbelief, and desperation swirling in his eyes. I poured myself a glass of water, took a slow sip. "Legacy," I said softly, "isn't just what you build, it's what you protect." And then I turned my chair to face the skyline. Let him drown in the silence behind me. He didn't go quietly. Men like him never do. At first, he called, left voicemails dripping with anger, denial, threats. "You'll regret this. You've ruined everything. We built that company together. How dare you?" But eventually, the world caught up to him. The media got wind of the power shift and the story behind it. Journalists dug deeper, uncovering the full picture. The silent investor, the shady personal expenses, the suspicious favoritism toward his assistant. Board members leaked emails. His reputation, once so carefully curated, unraveled thread by thread. Investors began pulling back. Speaking engagements were canceled. His name no longer opened doors. It closed them. And her, the assistant, she left within weeks. Word was she'd moved on to some new executive in a different firm. The moment the spotlight dimmed, she was gone. He was alone. I heard he tried starting another company. No one invested. He tried suing. He lost. He tried blaming me. No one listened. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. Not just the company, but myself. I restructured leadership from the inside out, promoted overlooked talent, prioritized ethics, brought in new voices. The culture shifted. People started believing in the work again, not just the profits. We launched a mentorship program for women in tech. Our stock rose, not just in numbers, but in respect. I traveled, took time for myself, learned how to sit in silence and actually feel peace. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming everything I had silenced in myself for years. Ambition, confidence, intuition. I had always been powerful. I just forgot for a while. And most of all, I forgave. Not for him, for me. Because I refused to carry the weight of bitterness any longer. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom. And now, I stand taller, I speak clearer, I smile more, but only when I mean it. I've learned that sometimes people will try to write you out of your own story. When they do, you don't fight for a page. You take the pen, and you write the whole damn book. Never mistake silence for weakness. It's just the sound of power gathering.